People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you never get that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees, they don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us, of course, at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And we're glad you're here today as we talk through some of the things that you might be thinking about, wondering about, maybe worried about when it comes to planning for retirement. There's a time when you're going to walk away from that 2 weeks every time getting a paycheck from your employer. And then it becomes you being the employer. You are generating that check. And how does that work out of your 401k? Well, that's what we talk about right here. Charisse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. The craze is over. The soccer championships is done. The banquets are done. Nephew graduated. He's a doctor officially. That's done. All of the costs and gifts are done. So now I'm like, it's summertime, beach time. So it's pretty exciting. So yeah, it's a time to relax and go away for a week or so, right?
Absolutely.
For most people, if you're working, take advantage while you have your young kids. I've realized this summer I have 3 more summers left with my daughter, and then she's gone. So I'm really honing in to making sure we're spending as much time together. I'm probably already driving her crazy, but I said, you'll appreciate this later. And my son, I've got 8 more, so I feel good about that one.
Nice. All right. We meant to mention that coming up on June the 17th is the golf tournament to benefit the Grilled Cheese Foundation. And so that's moving along. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we have gotten a couple sponsors and we're starting to fill up on the players. So anybody who wants to come out to the Grilled Cheese Foundation at the Country Club of Ocala, June 17th, it starts at 9 a.m. Let us know in advance because we will not have any spots available that day. But bring your friends or treat. Maybe you got somebody who has a birthday coming up or a brother or an anniversary or a graduation. Who knows? Treat them to come play and you guys can learn about the Grilled Cheese Foundation. But just as a rewind from last week, it's really about children in 6th grade to 12th grade, helping foster their passions so they can find those things that the kids that can't afford those. And we have Fresh Start scholarships and we got the Go Beyond scholarship. So lots of things there. You can go to thegrilledcheesefoundation.com to check more things out about on the brochure and the sign up. But we are looking for silent auction donations. We're looking for whole sponsors, and we still have our platinum and silver sponsorship available. So anybody who's tuning in and you're thinking about you want to do a good deed, this is a great deed.
Yeah.
And so we're giving back, and this is our first one. We're super excited about it. And I just found out we have a hole-in-one where 3 people can win the hole-in-one, and they get $20,000 a piece.
Nice.
Yes.
All right.
I know. So come try it because it's the easy hole-in-one at the club. So I got the deal done where we could do it on the shorter one. So I'm pretty excited about it. People are like, really? So come on down and check it out.
All right. Well, if you want to find out more, again, you can go to our website as well, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Hit the button that says About, and it scrolls down. You can see Zinnia Gives Back, and then you'll see the tab for the Grilled Cheese Foundation. And again, if you were involved in dance or karate or sports or whatever when you were a kid, it takes a little bit of money, and it takes a certain amount of equipment and all that kind of thing. And sometimes that gets pretty tough for parents. And to help out along those lines to make sure those kids have those experiences is really important. And that's what the Grilled Cheese Foundation is all about. So once again, check us out on the website. And the date for the golf tournament is on on June the 17th. All right. So you mentioned vacation time, and we're starting to get into summer mode here. So that's kind of where we're going to start today, because there is an old saying on Wall Street that says, sell in May and go away. And this used to be where people would take, all the summer off. They would go to their house in the Hamptons or something like that. And so they would basically kind of get themselves either out of the market or sell in May, and then not even think about it all summer long, and then come back in the fall and start to look at their investments again. So first of all, Charisse, does that even hold water anymore? Can people just walk away and not even look, or get themselves out of the market and they'll go back in? Does that even apply anymore?
It really doesn't. People still use it as like a marketing ploy, but most people do not sell in May and go away and then come back and put their money back in the market, meaning they sell, they put it in cash, and they come back in August and re-put it in. That used to work back in the day when you could time the market maybe a little bit more. I don't know if you really ever could do that, but you could see that in May that happened. You go back to the last 10 Mays, that's not necessarily the case. And the people that I've met with and I experienced that actually did that, they never got back in time. So if the market did go down, they didn't get back in for the run up, and then they missed the return if they would have just stayed put, right? But what I tell people is, like, in May, don't go away. May is the time, we're taking a little extra time for ourselves. May, June, and July. Make May Day, make the summertime the time where you say, you know what, I'm going to step in the doors of Zinnia Wealth Management, and I want to see where I'm at. I want to see if I need to even consider or worry about that selling in May strategy. I need to find out, next May, if I'm retiring, hey, do I have a plan in place? So I would consider May and June and July really just great times to see where you're at, see where you stand, because if there is opportunity and it happens to be May, June, and July, why not use it? But have some help by somebody, a professional that does it on the daily, right?
Kind of a mid-year review kind of a thing.
Yes. And I will tell you the other thing, that the sell in May, go away deal. I've seen people get burned because they're listening to TikTok. They're listening to whatever on, YouTube, and they're saying, sell now, sell now. They sell it all. And then come the very next year in April, they have this massive tax bill because they had a capital gain and they're paying 15, 20, sometimes 24%. And they're like, wait a minute. You mean I took a 24% loss because I had to pay the tax bill because I listened to this guru that actually didn't know my personal situation? So you got to be really careful about the noise. And maybe it sounds good, but there's so many other moving parts that you actually have to worry about when you hear this kind of noise. And this is why you want to hire a financial advisor that understands it, that's seen this talk and has gone down this walk with you and many other people over the last 20 years. And just be careful about the noise you hear out there.
Well, I think that maybe there was a time when the market was kind of dormant in the summertime, but not necessarily anymore. I mean, I did a little research on this as well, and I actually found out that in election years, the market is actually a little more active in the summertime. So there's a lot to be thinking about, and sitting down and talking to your financial professional about it is certainly something you want to do. And I do like the idea of that mid-year review.
Yeah, and I have one other piece on that. I met somebody not too long ago that actually they sold money in May, and this insurance agent actually put them in a life insurance policy. So this was 5 years ago. So they sold their stocks in May, and they did it every year in May. And then they used those dollars for 5 years to buy a life insurance policy, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's say it was $250,000 5 years later, but the life insurance policy is only worth $200,000. So was that a good strategy? No, I think that was a salesman's strategy to make money when your money could probably have been almost double today from that time. But if you go back 5 years, possibly. So you really got to think about who's the person who's making recommendations and why, and then get a second opinion. That's what I'm going to leave with.
Well, give us a call at 833-368-3680 for that second opinion. We'll take a look at what your portfolio is right now and give you some recommendations. We do a portfolio x-ray for everybody who comes in. And all you have to do is either ask us for it on the phone or look on our website, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. And there's a gold box there. It says Complimentary Retirement Consultation. When you click on that, you'll be on your way. All right. So a lot of times on this show, we hear from Warren Buffett and we hear from big names in the financial world. And that's all good and fine. But I'm not going to give you that today. I'm going to give you advice from my people in a golf foursome. How about that? So if you go out and golf on a Monday, there is a pretty good chance that you're going to run into some people who are either retired now or about to retire. And that's what I had. Last week, I golfed on a Monday. I took a day off, and I golfed on a Monday, and I golfed with a bunch of guys like that. And I heard some great stories. And one of them was a guy who worked for Major League Baseball for a couple of years. It wasn't his main job his whole career, but he worked there long enough to get a pension. And his first pension check came in. And he said it wasn't going to be a real big deal. And he said, I got it, and that was nice. And then the second check came, and then the third check came, and then the fourth check came, and he looked at me and goes, I kind of like this, not working and getting a check. I can get used to this. I like this. And then the other guy was telling me about his retirement planning, and he said, I found out that me and the wife are going to get $6,000 a month in Social Security. And I was so happy about that because I could see that I don't have to take a lot more out of my other investments in order to make retirement work. And suddenly, it became real. I can actually do this. And I smiled and I said, seeing is believing, isn't it? He goes, yeah. And I thought, Sharice, that's what we do every week here. We encourage people to come in and do the math, as you say all the time, and see it on paper. And seeing is believing, isn't it? I imagine you see that all the time.
I do. And I have got to I'm so glad you brought that up, Randy, because it happens all the time. When people start to see it on paper, they see the plan being built out. They see how we can change things very quickly if somebody passes away, etc. But it gives them more confidence. And so seeing is believing. But then when it starts to happen, they're just like, oh, wow, this is actually really, really happening now. But somebody who just came into my office, I'm going to tell you, good old boy, hardworking, saved a lot, worked 7 days a week. And I looked at him, I said, why? Why are you working 7 days a week? And he's like, I don't know. And I think I'm done. And he said his CPA, who does financial planning, but he says very minimal amounts, told him, hey, before you can retire, literally, they just had this conversation, you need $2 million saved. And you really got to scrounge up, sell your business, do all this stuff to get to that $2 million. He came to me because he said, I only have 1.1 million, Sharice. Do I really have to work? I mean, he's in his early 60s. And he says, do I really have to do this? I'm out of my gustos. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. A lot has happened in my life. So we, right then and there, this was a first appointment. I didn't even make him wait for a second appointment to get that income plan because I was like, I wanted him to leave knowing when he was back out there in the sun and working, I wanted him to know that he has a plan already written for him. So we did that plan. And on the $1.1 million, he had plenty of money to retire, and his money in 30 years on a very pessimistic return and a high inflation was still over, I think it was $1.5 million. 30 years later, he went, so I can retire now. He was so happy because he thought he had to work another 10 years or sell all of his stuff right now, which I don't think you can really sell a whole lot of it. But people out there will tell you, you've got to save $2 million to retire. Go ahead and invest. And that CPA also said, go ahead and invest all your money with me now. We'll get started, but you got to do this, this, and the other. What kind of plan is that? What kind of person does that? I am so upset that is the financial services industry for a lot of people out there. And for those who are listening that says, oh my gosh, I think I met that guy, or you're in the same boat, do not let somebody tell you you cannot retire unless they show you a plan on paper and it is so detailed and that you can understand it. Do not believe it. Come in and see us because we're helping people retire all the time, every day, all of our advisors, based on what you have saved. Now, one in every 40 people, I might say, okay, you do have to work another year or two, but I'm not going to make you work 10 years. Let's make this plan work for your pocketbook. And then when we start to put this plan in, we get tears, we get flowers. I always got some chocolates from somebody we retired a few months ago because they're just like, what they love about us is that we're balanced. We do a bunch of things. And I think that's all people want. I want you to tell me what you want. Then I'm going to put a plan together and tell you, okay, you can have those, but we got to sprinkle a few other things in here because I want to make sure that we're not running out of money in 20 years.
There are so many of those stories out there, and you see them all the time. You need $1.8 million to retire and all of that business. And then here's this guy who somebody tells him he's supposed to have $2 million. That means he has to save another $900,000 in the last, 8-9 years here, work till he's 70. Well, these are those tragic stories that you see somebody who's just killing themselves to try to make that money, and then they have a heart attack on the way, and they could have retired, and they did damage to their life, their health, all these different things. Let's not let that happen to you. Give us a call. Let's sit down, find out if you can retire. And many times, the answer is good news. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680, or use our website, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Click on the gold box that says Complimentary Retirement Consultation. We'll do the math on your retirement and find out when you can retire, and maybe it's sooner than what you thought. Again, 833-368-3680. Going to take a break. When we come back, I saw a story, and up at the top, it talked about Social Security, and underneath it, it had a picture of the sinking Titanic. And I thought, this is not a good story I'm going to read. We'll tell you what it said and see if we can get some insight on that from Charisse. Coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. And welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, our website is ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. And we encourage you to go there. Tool around just a little bit. There's a media tab there. And when you hit on that, you can hear our radio show. You can hear our podcast. You can hear a lot of interviews that Charisse has done with a lot of very interesting people. All that is on our website. If you like to listen on podcast, we're on all your favorite podcast providers. So all of that is there under Retirement Coffee Talk, so check that out as well. All right, so I saw the story, and it was about Social Security, and then there's a picture of the sinking Titanic right next to it, and I go, okay, here we go. They're going to tell me bad news about Social Security. And you've all heard this, that in the year 2035, if nothing is done, that our Social Security will be cut back by 25%. That's if nothing is done. And the problem is right now you don't hear a lot being done. Nobody seems to be working on this problem right now, and that's actually what the article was about. They said if our politicians leave this until 2035 to try to tackle it, it'll be like after the Titanic hit the iceberg and the ship is going to sink. And they say it is possible that Social Security could go away if they don't work on it early and get it done. That's very disturbing. So, Charisse, first of all, do you believe that headline?
Well, it is in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Social Security is in a bad situation. Unfortunately, some sticky fingers got in, and there's a lot of promises that we couldn't keep. And so that's not our fault. And in the private industry, we would have been in jail, right? Or public, private, you know what I'm saying. The point is that the politicians are kicking the can down the curb. Mm-hmm. I've been talking about this for years. There are some conversations out there about the changes and what the changes are going to be, but they cannot wait till 2035. I do not agree with this article. I do believe in the next couple of years, will be tossed to the left, and then they're going to start implementing some of this stuff to push out that 2035 to 2045 over the next couple of years. And then that can's going to get kicked down a little bit further. So I don't think they're going to wait till 2035. Things will probably wait till 2035. But to get us to that next hump, to give us more confidence and more certainty, I do believe that will be the plan. Everything happens very slow with the government, and they're playing poker, and what's that game that we play where you're passing off a card to get another higher card and hoping that it actually wins the game? Basically, that's what they're doing. I can't think of the name of it.
Gin or Uno or anything like that? Okay.
Oh, that's a good one too.
All
okay,
right.
Maybe I won't use that. I'm fired. nevertheless, somebody out there knows what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
Nevertheless, that's what's happening right now. So small things will be implemented. There's just a lot of noise out there, Randy, right now, and that's one of them. That is a scary, topic. Is Social Security like the Titanic? And at this point, it feels like it's the Titanic. It seems like the story is being played like the Titanic, where things happen in the final hour. But the conversations are happening, and even deeper fold, there's conversations in the private industry among some of the who's of our entire world that are coming up with a plan to help the government for the younger people that are being born. I don't know if you've heard about it, Randy, but it's quite amazing. They're talking about for every baby born moving forward, I don't know, here in the next couple of years, there's going to be $1,000 account given to them, where the government can't get into it. It is theirs, but there's some rules of engagement and things, $1,000 per baby when they're 65, 70 years old, that's millions of dollars.
Sure.
So we've just come up with a plan to save the government in the Social Security crisis. I do worry about the 5, the 10, the 15-year-olds. So I don't know what the plan is there, but just know there are plans in the works. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the government, but they do have to get approval for them, of course. So again, back to Social Security and the Titanic. It is a problem. There are hazards. There's headwinds, there's tailwinds, but there are some things that are slowly happening. It's ripping the Band-Aid off so slow. Making those strategic moves forward is just, it just raises awareness, and we're all very nervous about it because we just need it to happen.
Well, on average in this country, Social Security makes up 40% of retirees' income. That's a lot, almost 50%. But some people, it's 60, 70, 80%, even more. And if you cut, let's say, for instance, you get $3,000 a month, you cut that back by 20%, you just lost $600 a month. Okay, that's a big hit. So, Charisse, it does become a conversation about income. It's all about, all right, if they cut back 20%, where's that going to come from? Does that mean we have to take on more risk? Does that mean we have to be more creative with our income sources? What do we do?
There are tools out there where, depending on where you have your money saved and how much you have saved and how much you're going to need to live on, there are really cool tools out there. One of them that we've seen for a long time now that kind of is a backup plan. It's a backup plan to Social Security. If one spouse passes, it'll replace the Social Security check for that spouse that passed away. If Social Security lowers your benefits at all, they're going to give you a nice little amplifier on your income and make up that difference with some of these tools. So these are tools that we offer. The government doesn't offer them. So there are things out there. But I will tell you this much. The average retiree, Randy, needs $800 to almost $2 million saved if Social Security were to deduct 20% from your Social Security benefits come 10 years from now. That's how much you need extra saved. And if you don't, good reason come see us to see if any of these tools could help you, if it's money you don't need to live on, or if we're planning on living on it in 10 years from now, et cetera.
Well, we can't, do much about the headlines. And when you hear things like this, I will tell you this. Social Security is a program where the money is coming out of payroll. As long as people are working and getting paychecks, there will be money coming out for Social Security. So that makes me feel a little bit better. But the fact that it might be cut back by 20-some%, that is very unnerving. Does it happen to you? Well, if it does, why don't we work that into the plan and say, if it happens, we're covered. If it doesn't happen, we've got that extra money. So these are all things to sit down and talk to Charisse about. Let's sit down and do it together. We call it a portfolio X-ray. We'll do that for you at no charge. We'll build that income plan. We'll talk about Social Security and build in what we need to in case some of these things happen. Here's our number. Here's our website, 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680, or look on our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Hit that gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. It's a free meeting with Charisse where you can sit down and talk through your questions, your concerns, and get something down on paper. Let's do the math on your retirement. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's talk a little taxes. You've heard the president say over and over and over again, anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year will not see an increase in their taxes. That seems like a good thing, but is it really true? We'll talk about it coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us at zinniawealth.com. And we hope that you do. We hope to check our website out. We hope you sit down and talk through your questions about retirement. And if you want to hear more, you hear this show and you say, I got to get out of the car. I was liking that. Okay, that's all right. We have a podcast where you can hear our entire show and you can hear portions of shows and all our past shows. We've been doing this for like 11 years now, so there's a lot there. So check it out. Any place you get a podcast, iTunes, Spotify, all those different places, just look up Retirement Coffee Talk. All right, so you've probably heard this from the president. He says nobody who makes less than $400,000 a year will see any kind of a tax hike as long as he is president. Well, is that true? All right, so here's a TikTok contributor. He calls himself the older millennial. He's not really buying it.
The original income tax was the wealthiest 1% of Americans had to pay a 1% tax on their income. And of course, it passed easily. Everybody was in favor of it. Even most of the 1% didn't oppose it. But now the average American pays anywhere from 27 to 50% of their income in taxes. Guys, there has never been a tax that has been instituted by the government on the wealthiest 1% that has not grown to encompass everyone in America. Because that's the hard part for the government, passing a new tax. But once they get the American people to agree to that tax, well, then they have the authority to just raise it as time goes on.
Okay, so that may come our way. The old trickle-down effect, as they say. All right,
Sure.
In a negative way. All right, so when I think about that, Sharice, you're dealing with retirees, helping them retire and getting them through retirement. And a lot of them, I can't imagine, are making more than $400,000 a year in retirement. Does that mean that the people that you're working with, the retirees, don't have to worry about raising taxes or being in a situation where they have to pay more taxes?
No, it has nothing to do with the $400,000. It has everything to do with the amount of money that was saved in retirement plans. And right now, the baby boomers have the largest amount of money by millions in these retirement plans. So let's talk about this $400,000 that you're not going to see increases on your taxes if your income's under $400,000.
Okay.
Again, this is a smoke and mirrors hot topic, right? It's smoke and mirrors. They're doing a dog and pony show. We've seen this only 1,000 times for the last 40 to 50 years of our lives. And what they say is not necessarily what they mean or what they do. But it's just like when we were in high school and we're voting for that president of the, high school, and they're like, the stock jock comes out and they're like, yeah, we're going to have cake every Friday and we're going to have a Coke day where we're going to have Pepsi and it's going to be the best year ever. And then you get the other guy who's all about, hey, I know the data. Yeah, that's not going to happen because we don't have the funding and there's no way our school's going to allow us to do it. So we're going to do this, this, and this. Guess who won? The stock jock, right? The other guy who was the jock in the football team.
Yep.
And it doesn't usually come true. So when I'm looking at this scenario where they're saying that, hey, if your income's not over $400,000, you have nothing to worry about. Well, here's what I want you to know. We already know. It's in writing, okay? In 2025, December 31st, 2025, when you wake up that very next day, January 1st, 2026, the taxes have officially changed. And right now, when they sunset, this is what's going to happen. We don't have to raise your taxes because your deductions are going to be cut down into half where it stands today.
We're going back to the old tax brackets, aren't we?
We're going back. So what does that mean? That means you pay more taxes. You don't even have to hit the $400,000 income level. So the smoke and mirrors is, hey, look at this little sparkly object over here. Vote for me, vote for me. But don't look down here at the reality of what's going to happen to us. So you got to listen to the noise. You got to know what is the game plan behind the scenes. Don't let these, this dog and pony show distract you from your decisions and who you're going to vote for. Vote for policy. Vote for what's best for your own household. That's all I care about. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to most likely be painful. I haven't heard too much about any of the changes, but to add to the pain points, even if your income isn't over $400,000, let's say your income in retirement's $100,000, and then you go and sell, and you're 65 years old, and now you go sell your house, and you just made $700,000. Well, your income isn't over $400,000, but you sold $700,000 worth. And do you know that the government ties sales of your homes, or when you sell your IRAs and do a rollover to a Roth, they take, even though it's not income, they take that into the equation, and other things happen behind the scene that you don't realize that's happening. So, for instance, let's talk about the capital gains on that house that you just sold.
Right.
Based on your income, where your income sits is also based on how capital gains are affecting you. And depending on that income, you could be paying 15% for the sale of that home, the growth of it. You could be paying 20. You could be paying a little over 24%. Has nothing to do with income. It's just those little things behind the scenes that most people don't know, and the hazards. So you got the AMT tax, the NIIC tax, and an income investment tax. You have your capital gains. So you have to think about a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to tell you, when you come in and sit with us, bring those questions. Hey, Sharice, I'm about to do this. Hey, Paul, I'm about to do this. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Advisor, I'm about to do this. How much is it going to cost me? What does it mean? So we're not your tax planners. We're not your CPAs that are going to do the accounting and the QuickBooks. Our job is the tax strategy. Our job is to say, listen, high level overview. If you sell this house based on what we're seeing on income till we talk to the CPA, it looks like you're going to be paying this much, right? And you need to know, because a lot of people don't know, Randy. It blows my mind. And then on top of that, you have to deal with ugly IRMAs. If you're over 65 years old and you have Medicare and you sell a home, it doesn't matter. And there's a 2-year look back on Medicare, and guess what happens? Your Medicare Part B premium doubles from $174 to maybe $300 to maybe $450 a month for you and your spouse. So before you go, you need to know, we need to do the math, make sure it makes sense. And most people who are selling a house, I do make sense of it. We have some tax strategies for people selling those homes. Not everybody needs to use them, but it sure is good to be in the know, because no matter what noise you hear out there, because you're going to hear a lot of noise, it doesn't mean it's going to pertain to you, or maybe not at that exact theory, but what theory does pertain to you. You need to know what that is. You need to know what you have to do for you and yourself and your household to make it work, because if we can lower our tax bill in the future, you need to come see us, because we're doing it. We're helping people lower their tax bill in the future over and over and over again by just small little steps, not big leaps. That's how simple it is.
Well, when you hear these stories that, we're not going to tax anybody unless you make over $400,000 a year, and you figure, well, I'm not even close to that. Well, look at all the instances that Sharice has shown you here where your taxes could go up, or Medicare premiums going up. It's the same kind of thing, and you need to know about these things before they happen to you. Let's have a little sit down about that. 833-368-3680 is our number. Sign up for a complimentary retirement consultation. There is no obligation here. There is no cost here. We're just going to sit down and do some of the math on your retirement. Listen to your story and find out what concerns you. And then as we look at the paper and do the math, then we'll show you what concerns us as we look at those papers. Give us a call or give us a look on the website, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Click on that gold box. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Well, there was an interesting article in Market Watch, and it talked about how you drive might reflect on what kind of an investor you are. If you happen to drive really fast, you know that you might get someplace a little bit quicker, but you also risk getting in an accident or getting a speeding ticket. On the other hand, if you drive a little slower, it might take you a little longer to get there, but you might get there more safely. So that's a pretty good metaphor for people who are trying to figure out where their risk level is in investment. So, Sharice, how do you figure that out in the conversation that you have with people, how fast they should be driving with their investments?
Well, I'm definitely not clocking them when they're coming in through the driveway. That's for sure. Nor asking them how many tickets you have. But I do think that's funny. We actually created a new process and procedure, something very, very streamlined. I always have something up my sleeve, but this one is just real gold and real good. But right now, if you come in the doors right this second, we're having that connection appointment. We're looking at your stuff. Bring your box of goodies in. Like, you can bring the cookies in too, but I mean like the tax return, the Social Security statements, all your statements that you have. Because I'm going to be able to dial in, and all the advisors are able to really take a good gauge and take inventory of where you're at. When it comes to your expenses, do we have any debt? Are we overexposed to the stock market. So we're going to run a report to say, listen, you are 65 years old, but you're invested like a 35-year-old. I'm okay with it, but are you okay with it? And sometimes they're like, what does that mean, Charisse? And then we show them on paper. Well, right here, this X-ray says, based on your investment portfolio, you're driving in here at 90 miles an hour and just about to hit my car in the parking lot, right? That means you could lose 45% in the stock market. And you're 65 years old. I'm like, if you're 35, I'm okay with that. But now you're in the final hour. You're in that red zone to retirement. And now we can't play the same game, that card game that we used to. The cards are going to flip and it's going to change. And if you don't, there's a potential, if you have to live on a lot of this money, your retirement could be derailed. You could be one of the statistics out there that runs out of money because the big losses are hitting you at the same time you need income or there's emergencies. So it's up to you, Mr. or Mrs. Retiree. Our job as a mediator, we are educating you to show you can still have that account, but do we need it on all of your dollars? And can we sprinkle in a little this and a little that and a little this? And most people are like, well, yeah, nobody's ever actually showed it to us, or we thought we were taken care of. We actually didn't have a clue, or we're actually a little disgruntled that we were having this much risk at this phase of our life because we said we wanted to be more conservative. So just know that second opinion review is very valuable. We've had a lot of people come in over the last couple months for that, and they hear these stories on radio, and then they come in and then they are the story, and then they call me later and was like, was that me, Charisse? I'm like, it was, but
is that common that somebody comes in and you find that they've been told that they're a conservative investor and their investments are conservative, but you find exactly the opposite. They're a conservative investor, but their advisor has them at way too much risk?
I would say 8 out of 10 times.
Wow.
Randy, this is for the last 20 years in this industry, that has been the case. It has not changed. It hasn't changed one bit. And we're still seeing the same thing over 20 years. When is the noise going to stop? When is the financial services industry going to figure out how to plan for retirees? It's brain-boggling to me. Am I the only one out there that gets it? I don't know. But I do retirement planning. I know what clients need. They tell me what they want, and we meet in the middle. And then every year we bob and weave to make changes as we need more, as we're gifting, as we need elder planning, as we're paying for taxes to roll IRAs to a Roth for a tax-free event in the future for kiddos and widows, et cetera. So again, it's not a one-size-fits-all here. I have to tell all the listeners, when I got into this industry, I thought every retiree was the same. You all did the same thing. You walked alike, you talked alike, you're partying alike, going to bed the same time. That is not the case here. Every plan we build out is actually very different, and it depends on how much you saved. What are your goals? What are your dreams? Did you even know you could spend this much? And those are the conversations. We want to paint the vision and have some fun with you. One of our core values is have fun. Our top core value is customer service. And how do we do that? But I try to relay that to clients. Like, let's have some fun while you're planning this. Let's do the one thing you always wanted to do, but you certainly thought, there's no way I can do that. Never say no way in my office. You're going to learn there's always a solution and there's always a way, and we'll help paint that picture and we'll help make those dreams come true. That's what I do. That's why I love what I do. If you guys can't, you really, if I don't convey this message as good as I do, I love coming to work, Randy.
I love it. You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Give us a call. If you have an advisor right now and you've got a portfolio, somebody gave you something leather bound and it's real pretty and everything, but you open it up, you go, I don't remember what they were talking about when we did this. And, maybe it's time for a second opinion and to find out if that thing still applies to you, if it still works in these inflationary times and the economic times and market times that we have. Maybe it was built 5 years ago and you just wonder, is it still working for me? Let's find out. And maybe there's some adjustments that need to be made. Give us a look on our website, zinniawealth.com. Hit the gold box that says complimentary retirement consultation. You'll be on your way there. Or call us at 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680. Well, there's a lot of conversation out there all over the financial networks, and I know you've heard about the Fed and the Fed messing with interest rates, and should they be or should they not be, and what it's doing to the market and the economy in general. Well, I got a guy who says the Fed should just shut up. That's next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us at zinniawealth.com. And while you do, there's a navigation bar there, and it says events. Sharice does a lot of educational workshops. These are free as well. June the 12th, she has 2 at the Villages, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then again at the Villages on June the 18th. That one's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So these are opportunities for you to sit down and hear what you're in for when it comes to retirement. If you're already retired, maybe there's some ideas and some insight that you can get there as well. Being surrounded by people who are kind of in like mind and a like situation, the questions they ask maybe would be the questions that you would ask as well. These are free. Once again, you can find them on our website at zinniawealth.com under events. All right, so the Fed. Everybody's talking about the Fed. Well, a billionaire investor named Stanley Druckenmiller, kind of a crazy name, but he's a gazillionaire investor, hedge fund, and the whole deal. They talk to him a lot on CNBC. He says the Fed just talks too much.
The Fed was in a perfect position. Inflation was coming down, financial conditions were tightening, and to some extent, I feel like they fumbled on the 5-yard line with the game on the line. Why they and others continued to talk about, well, it's not going to be 6 cuts, it's only going to be 3 cuts or 4 cuts or 2 cuts. I'm going, why are we even talking about cuts? What I would do is just say nothing and do what Fed Chair used to do. When you need to raise rates, raise them. When you need to cut them. Don't go on 60 Minutes. You're not a rock star. Okay, you're the Fed chairman. You're supposed to be running monetary policy for the good of the country.
Yeah.
You're not Bruce Springsteen. Sit down and shut up. All right. So you say it all the time, Sharice. Don't pay attention to the noise. Is all this with the Fed just a lot of noise? I know we can't do anything about it, but it sure does affect us. What do you say about this?
I say vote for the right president, Randy.
Okay, all right.
Every vote counts. I talked to another advisor and says, Sharice, my wife and I aren't even going to vote. We're so sick and tired of this. We're staying in the middle. We don't even want to go out and vote. And I was saddened to hear that, because that's when we need to make sure we are voting, right? Because every vote does count. And so I went off on the sidelines here for voting and not forgetting to do that. Vote for policy, vote for what works for you and your pocketbook and what your forces are all about. But when it comes to the Federal Reserve, we cannot control what they do. We cannot vote in what they're going to do and not do. And technically, the government's not supposed to get involved either, but I have a feeling that that is not the case, right? Yeah. So how do we as individuals, how do we as retirees protect ourselves from whether or not the Federal Reserve actually understands accounting and basic math? And the thing is that we don't worry about them. We worry about you and your household and your dynamics and what we need to do to get you through it. And you don't want to be buttoned up so tight that you can't move around and bob and weave as the Federal Reserve are making changes, whether they're adding the rates or cutting the rates, whatever it might be, because we have to be flexible and we have to be able to move on things when the opportunity presents itself. So if interest rates are going up, maybe it's time to move out of bonds. Right? Let's be flexible. If interest rates are going down, we maybe go back into bonds, right? If interest rates are going up, do we buy gold? No. If inflation's up, do we buy more of the market? Maybe. But those are conversations that you have to have. And I will tell most retirees, they are on that 5-yard line to that touchdown. If you are 5 years before you retire, right? You're pre-retirement. and you're making decisions based off all this noise, I have a feeling that that could be very hazardous for you in the future because you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows. So make a decision based on what you need, not what the government needs, not what the Federal Reserve is dictating, based on the economy and the climate and what card we're dealing with now, whether it's a king, queen, or ace, right? So again, let's just make sure when you're in that retirement red zone, or maybe you are already there, maybe you are retired, that you have everything buttoned up. You have your income streams, you know where they're coming from for the next 5 years, and they're nowhere in sight of that stock market. And other dollars can be in the stock market, but not the income you're living in over the next 5 years. So you got to button that up. Your investment strategy. Should we have all of our money in the aggregate bond and the S&P 500? No, that would be an awful strategy, in my opinion. But we could have some of that stuff buttoned up into the plan, but you need to have other things added to be balanced in retirement, because when things get shaking and markets go down or interest rates change, you're probably going to have to shift gears from where you're pulling your income, and or you're going to find yourself in a place where you are not following what you've been taught for the last 30 to 40 years when it comes to financial conventional wisdom and buying and selling. Don't sell at a low, but yet you find yourself in retirement doing those things that you're not supposed to do. And this is why people are not confident, because they don't understand it, but they feel it. And then 5 years later, they see the pain. Don't see the pain in 5 years. Let's get rid of the pain points. Let's know where we're going to be in 5 years on a pessimistic viewpoint.
Well, I think that you kind of hit it on the head there. Is we don't want to be sitting on the edge of our seat like all of Wall Street is every time Jerome Powell talks. Yeah. But if we know that rates are going up and we see things like CDs and money markets and annuities and things that are connected to that interest rate are looking better, certainly that needs to be a part of the conversation. So maybe we are right at the tip top of interest rates right now. What if 5 years from now we look back at this last 2 years and say that was the perfect time to get into fixed income? Well, maybe that's the conversation you have with Charisse right now, of getting some money out of the market and putting into these fixed income areas. And as rates start to go down, there's going to be some strategies there as well. The important part is that you are on top of it with your financial professional. And if you don't have anyone in your life right now, let's hook you up with Charisse. Here's our number. Here's our website, 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680, or use our website as well, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. When you click on that, we'll ask you to put in a little information there, and then our team will reach out to you. Well, that is all the time we have on the show for today. We hope you have a great weekend and enjoy your time. And Charisse, I'll give you the last word on this one.
Yes, we talked a lot today. Hopefully a little positive news, a little not so great news. If you want to tune back in and hear what we said earlier today, just go to our podcast, Retirement Coffee Talk, on every outlet you can think of, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple, you name it. And as usual, live by design and not by default. And we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at ZinniaWealth.com.
Charisse Rivers is an investment advisor representative of Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Charisse Rivers is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Charisse Rivers, NPN Insurance License Number 8718011.